Firstly, I would like to congratulate you both on the book. From the cover to the content, it's winning hearts, all places. So, now that we have the book, we have the cover, let's just go back like 3-4 decades ago and get to know how it all really began. How did your journey with Mr. Puri, how did it all start? So, can you tell us that how was the dynamic between the both of you during your initial years of knowing each other, and how did you meet?
Yes, sure. So, the dynamics was just an outburst of absolute, first love, and we were both really attracted to each other. At least I was, speaking for myself, and we were very young, and we didn't set eyes on anybody else that night. We were just totally twirling in each other's arms, or absolutely oblivious of the world and the other guests. So that was the first, and then we didn't meet for a long time, and the rest, I think Mr. Puri will
So I'll say it with a song, so I saw coming in. कौन आया महफिल में बिजली सी चमकी दिल में तू ना मिली तो क्या होगा? That was it.
Very well said.
So now that we know about what the dynamics were amongst the both of you, both of your stories, a major part of it's also based in Bombay, right? From Juhu Beach to Nariman Point, all the iconic spots of the city have found some or the other mentioned in the book. Can you tell us something about your initial days and arrival in Bombay?
She was always a Bombay girl.
Bombay girl. Since I was born and brought up here, so I was always here. So it's he who should, be.
So I came from Chandigarh, huge house, garden in front, garden at the back. 3 cars were a traffic jam, and everybody knew us in the town. And I was the elder's grandson, her tikka sahab, so totally spoiled. And I land up in Bombay thinking I've arrived. Because they said they were giving us a very good salary and that. And all I could afford was a paying guest initially. And that paying guest lady told me that I'll give you half a cup of tea for breakfast with a toast and you'll get a half a bucket of water. I thought she was fooling, but she meant it. And this is right behind the Taj, that Meriwether Road. And all the hookers are there. I said, Daddy, shit, I can't afford my paying guest. What you don't do shit. I'm passing this place every day. And then I used to catch a train from Churchgate to Kandivali. And that was not a life I could take. Initially, first time I went to Churchgate station, I saw this whole sea of humanity coming. I thought there was a strike or I don't know what. I'd never seen so many people. I came back home. I said, no, that's just the station. And it was tough. But slowly it came along.
So now that we know of, how you really felt in a city like Bombay, can you also share with our viewers some of the most memorable moments from your childhood, and what was it like growing up as an Air Force kid in Chandigarh and then in other parts of the country?
So my grandparents or great-grandparents actually migrated to Chandigarh and Simla from Sargodha and was brought up as a complete spoilt kid because they were well-to-do landowners there and we were reasonably well off. So brought up as a completely spoiled kid for the first few years because my grandmom would not give me to the parents. But after that, and as an Air Force officer's kid or any armed forces kid, you actually don't realize what a lovely life you have and how much you learn. You learn about integrity, you learn about respect for the elders, you learn about hard work, focus, etc. But more importantly, every 3 years you get transferred. You go to a new school. I meet my publisher, Akash. He's been to only one school. Kya malum hai isko zindagi ka? So you go there, one school, you got to make new friends, you've got to adjust, then you move again, new language. So it gives you a lot about having emotional intelligence, which helps you go along. And most of us at that time, we are all the same. Everybody, father's earning just that much. Your main haunt is the club. Initially, it's the bun samosa. Then when you grow big, it's a shot of rum because it's very cheap. So you're really not prepared for the commercial world at all. Because whatever you wanted, the little that you wanted, you had people to play hockey with you, you had people to play squash, tennis, go swimming, riding, you name it. And only we used to start getting worried when we had to look out for a job because all the civilians had contacts, we had none. But I think what it prepares you for, and a lot of my friends, the MasterCard CEO, the CEO for Hindustan Lever, Lafarge, Cadbury, all these guys, we were all army officers, kids, army or Air Force officers. So it's a great life, prepares you to deal with people, different situations, different states in this thing, and money is not the most important thing in your life.
In fact, his mother told him, don't worry, after CA, I've got the greatest contact to get you a job. So he said, are you sure? Because all my friends really have big contacts and they're all going to get jobs and I'm the only one who's not going to be, having a job. His mother said, just approach me after you finish your chartered accountancy. So when he did, so he came up to her really proudly, I've cleared my chartered accountancy. So now you have to get me that job with that really big contact you got. So she said, yeah, sure, my greatest contact is God above. And he couldn't believe it. So, those times were simple. And
but it was true. It was true.
Yes.
I tell my grandchild the same thing today.
Yeah.
There is a thing called destiny. There's a thing that you make, there's a bit of luck and a bit you make your life yourself. I was on the merit list, so I actually didn't need anybody but God's grace that got me there.
So like you mentioned about your grandson Riyan, it's there in the book and it's very clear from all the lovely pictures out there as well that both of you are very fond of him. Can you share some memorable moments that you've had with him over the years?
Yeah, he's been a bundle of delight. And he's been a different kind of kid. So he's always had these new things when we are going about. So the first time he came to visit us alone, he was about 10. And so we'd gone to one of these hill stations and he said, Dadu and Dadin, can I have a separate room? So we arranged connecting rooms. And then Dadin said, please don't lock it, because then you will feel unsafe what you're doing inside. But he locked it. So in the morning, she asked him, what happened? He says, Dadin, I didn't want you to come in. I may have been inappropriately dressed at that point of time. So he's pretty good that way. He came here for now, and he said, I want to taste Indian food. So we took him to Olympia, which is excellent food right opposite that place where Leopold Cafe. But it's a little chilly. You want to take that little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we were, I feel that it's in our DNA, eating and food. And it's gone into his DNA as well. So he's ready to try out every cuisine, which is very unlike a child. A child just wants his comfort food. But he's ready to, go to the Japanese and the Mexican and really dig into it. So we took him to this sort of a dhaba, biryani place. And surprisingly, I thought that he'd be, wanting his, dahi chawal or something. But he dug into all the foods like brain masala and the biryanis. But of course, in between, he was finding it spicy and would, take a sip or two of maaza.
He finished 3 bottles of maaza during the lunch.
And he sort of went into all the foods, and then he was licking his fingers as well after that. I was quite shocked that he took to that food, which is really, you have to develop a taste for brain masala and biryanis. So that's him. And then he went to Rishikesh with us. And this is a different side to him everywhere and every time. So he went and asked the Swami Parmarth ji. He said, Swami ji, do you mind? I want to take you inside the room alone for 5 minutes, and I want to ask you some very personal questions. The Swamiji also looked at us and we looked at him. But that's him, he does these strange things, really out of the blue and take us by surprise. He even would be ready in the morning at 7 in the morning, ready with his, board and his chalk to write down all the things that he had, long questionnaire he had got ready for his dadu. So he'd, talk about all.
He loved maths and all that. So my Bahu told me to buy some books for him. So I bought all these puzzles and all of that. I forgot to look at the age that this is suited for this age, and I had a full box. So he said, Papa, did you not look? This is at least 2 to 3 years more. So I said, don't worry, I'll try it with Riyan, and I'll change the rules as we go along. If I find something tough, then we'll do it our way. So he got most of it, and then he'd be waiting outside with his board because his mother told him you can't wake up Dadu and Dadin till 8:30. So he'd be, not 8:30, 7 or 7:30. And he'd be waiting outside with this thing ready for me to come out, and then he would start doing the puzzle. It paid off well. He had straight A's in his subjects. Good man. He just won his first chess tournament also.
The other day.
That's great. We talk about adapting, and nobody can learn adaptation well rather than learning it from kids, because they adapt to so many things. So now, speaking of adaptation, Mr. Puri, you've traveled to work to multiple places within the country and even outside. How was it adapting and working according to different work culture and depending on the country and its people?
See, what happens is, obviously, India is much easier. Because deep down, we are all Indians. We have the same, the sensitivity, the desire to argue a lot, no desire to finish the work. There are lots of traits that are all common to us. So you can handle that. But when you go, say, to Hong Kong or Malaysia, then those are Chinese-dominated countries. Now, in a Chinese-dominated country, and they're pretty smart, the Chinese. In a Chinese-dominated country, to get an Indian boss is a tough one for them to handle as well. But I saw that. There are a few instances in the book as to how I handled it. But fundamentally, you have to base it on the fact that they need to understand you're the boss. You're not worried. You're competent. And you're going to be fair and nice, but you won't take any bullshit.
So you did mention that in India, it's always a little bit much easier because it's home territory. So now, can you please share your thoughts on the new India and where you envision the nation in another 25 years?
The new India, in my thoughts, is the Sone ki Chidiya is coming back. So the Brits came, a lot of that history has to be rewritten. They really took us for a ride, and they became a big superpower, etc. And there's this book by, I forget her name, Tom Guzelman or something, who describes India at that point of time, a massive kingdom with diversity and richness and a tradition, and describes Britain as something that was the uneducated masses that were illiterate and, needed better hygiene. So that whole thing had been turned around. But if you look at where we've come a long way, and we have to give credit to the government as well, and all of us, the government, the civil servants, the private sector guys who've been doing it, I think this is India's decade. The next 50 years, why decade? The next 20, 30 years are ours. Because if you look today, we are the fastest growing economy. We have some of the best mass scale digital infrastructure, which is the India Stack, the UPI, the the Aadhaar, the Jandan. We have a very young population. We have a tremendous amount of new manufacturing coming in through PLI, etc. We're moving towards a sustainable development. We are at the forefront of green energy, etc. We're trying to create jobs. We're trying to make sure that we reduce the disparities. We bring in healthcare and education. And I think with this, and the growth rate is only going to go up as we go forward, lots of qualifications. So I think this is India's century. And we should all be not only proud, we should be happy that we will all get a chance to make a mark, jobs, etc. So I'm very, very, very optimistic on India.
That's lovely. So now, I'm sure, Mrs. Puri, my next question is to you, that a lot of this must be, going into topics of conversation during dinner time and everything, that you all do together as family. So can you share with us some things you all like to do together as family? Something like a family activity or anything similar?
Yes, absolutely. The number one thing that is very important in the Puri household is, bonding together on the table, breaking bread together and discussing the meal together. At breakfast, we discuss lunch. At lunch, we discuss dinner. And it's very elaborate. The discussions starts with the hors d'oeuvres. It starts with what drinks we're going to have, and then what cuisine everybody wants, and then we have to zero in on one type of cuisine. So for us, actually, our heart all goes out to food, and
lots of travel.
Travel, oh my God, we've actually, I've set a rule in the Puri household that once a year, annually, all of us have to get together and have a rollicking annual, trip somewhere in the world, and we have to do it. This rule cannot be broken. So we love travel, and we love food.
And we love music.
So we all bond on these three things, definitely.
So we'll go to the festivals. Each one has their own thing. So somebody likes ghazal, somebody likes jazz, somebody likes instrumental, somebody likes the old Hindi songs. So we'll like that. We'll travel to see a small jazz cafe in a basement or whatever, and we come back. So both India and elsewhere, food is important. Wine is important. We're not big drinkers, but we like a glass or two of wine with our meals. And mainly, it's very noisy. Nobody is listening to the other person when we're having meals.
Everybody's trying to get a word in. There's a lot of love and laughter, and we're all heart.
So, Mr. Puri, as you mentioned that you travel, you like music, you like breaking bread together. So I'm sure you must be traveling a lot for work. Then there are family holidays, family functions, more such similar things on the personal front, which is a little difficult for today's generation, or perhaps any generation, that they always find it a little tricky to establish the perfect work-life and home-life balance. So how did you do it? How did you establish the perfect balance?
So initially I didn't for the first few years, till some sense came into my head. I feel very sad for these fellows who don't establish a balance. I forget the name of the Coca-Cola executive that said, in life you have many balls in the air. There's only one rubber ball out of the 4 or 5 that you have. So there's hobbies, there's your wife, there's children, there's your job, there's your friends. The only rubber ball is the bloody job. It falls, you get another one. You upset your wife, you've had it. I'm putting it in that sequence. You break a friendship, you can mend it, but the crack remains. You screw up your health, you got a problem. And yet, Whenever you talk to a person, the wife rings up, I can't talk to you, I'm busy. What are you doing? Can we talk or can we go? No, I got a late night today. I'm not saying don't work hard, but there's got to be a balance. And I do believe beyond a point of time, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Then you don't think laterally. So I would strongly advise that we understand that life is not just about a job. It's being complete. It's being making sure that you meet even, your kids need your time. Your wife needs your time and love. Your friends, you need to bond with them. If you ignore all that, you'll pay the price for sure, I tell you.
That's indeed very true. So now, as we've spoken that every working professional should have a work-life, home-life balance. But especially talking about the younger emerging professionals, what would your advice be for them as well as the young new entrepreneurs springing out of the country in this startup era?
Two things I would say very clearly. A lot of times I find people putting the cart before the horse. Money cannot be your prime objective. You're not going to make the money then. You have to have the passion for what you're doing. You have to have some object. You have to have some purpose. And incidentally, if you make money, that's very good. But if you put money first, then you're probably going to use the wrong means. So you got to feel that sense of satisfaction, the passion. And that's what it is today. That if you want to come up with new software, you want to come up with new molecules, you want to come up with a new distribution system, with a purpose. Is it to reduce disparities? Is it for sustainable growth? Is it for taking banking to the center? Is it for better medical health? And in the process, if you do that well, money will come. But if you're thinking of money and working backwards, my friends, you're going to fail.
So, we've spoken about a lot of things, but one thing which has a very interesting mention in the book, and not many know of it as well, that one of Mr. Puri's former bosses at Citibank was none other than the now former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shaukat Aziz. Can you tell us something about your former boss and your time with him at Citibank?
Why only former boss? We had Margaret Thatcher come home. We met Mahathir. We met the senior guys in Singapore. We had John Reed coming. Shaukat is a guy who loves life and has a good balance. He loves music. He loves good food. He dresses up very nattily. He didn't want me to leave the bank because we got along together. And he's a great guy. But lots of the guys in the same could be said about lots of the bankers and other friends. Mahathir, for instance, actually, there was some mix-up in the appointment when John Reed was coming. We told his secretary, and he actually flew back in a helicopter to meet him then. So Margaret Thatcher was brand ambassador. It was great fun hosting her, and I learned about the best whiskey to have, which is famous grouse and bourbon, because that's all she would have when we were asking her advance party. And so Citi actually gave us a lot of experience. You met a lot of people in politics, you met them in the arts, you met them in different, so you met all the CEOs from whether it's IBM or Microsoft or wherever, and museums. So I think I had a ball.
That's wonderful. So it's also mentioned in the book that your stint with Citibank required you to travel to a lot of international destinations. So, after all that travel, what led you to look for opportunities to return back to India?
I was actually not looking for opportunities to return back, though it was at the back of our mind, because my father was not keeping good health. And he was very fond of his daughter-in-law, in fact, more than me even. And he would always say that I want to pass my last few years in Smiley's house. Yeah, say? You want to?
Definitely. No, absolutely true. And that's what happened in the end. He did come, and his last few years he did stay with us. And of course he was very ill, but he felt very well looked after, and comfort level was the greatest with the eldest son and with me. And Yeah, his
Actually, a lot of people thought I came back only because there were great prospects, etc. Actually, Deepak Parekh came to the HDFC had got a license, and he said, "Would you come and run it?" Now, all along, I had been telling Smiley that I do want to create a world-class Indian bank. And she reminded me of that when Deepak was there. And he said, "Look, I've come with the job, and you may won't have so much salary, but you can make it up in options." So I said, "Let me think about it." Because I was a rising star in City as well.
Yes.
And I think then I asked Smiley, and a lot of things I must give her credit for, because she says things very, very simplistically, but they mean a lot. So I said, "What do you think? Should we go back? We'll have to start something from the beginning. And when you're senior in Citibank, to start from scratch is not something that you really look forward to." So I had the excitement. I said, "No, I also have the excitement." Then she asked me a simple question. If you don't go back and if something happens to your dad, will you be able to live with it? So next day I took the job.
So, talking about making a fresh start. Mrs. Puri, you've gone on to call Mr. Puri as every man's banker in the book. Can you tell us the incident which led to this monkia?
You see, what happened was that when we say every man's bank, we used to go out a lot together. And I wanted to take banking. One incident was where you tell them about mommy that, well, I have to go to the...
My mother, she used to always tell me, "Aaj to badi musibat hai, aaj to mere ko bank jana hai." And I used to remember that, and I used to tell him, about it, that all the ladies, they really find it very difficult going to the bank and find it a big problem, because they're long lines, and it's not very, nice for a senior citizen to go and sit there and wait or stand there. And there are no chairs there to sit. So I used to, really tell him to do something about banking in India. And that's when he...
So we said we'll take, and then technology had changed, so we could offer most of it as home banking. Then I wanted the small shopkeepers, etc., to get the loans. So I would go to these small shops, like in the book there's this talk about Bhuj, etc. And initially she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Look, this will become one of our biggest businesses." And it is one of the biggest businesses for the bank today. Or when we went out, Pandara Road is the famous place to eat at night. And we were all having this, and then we saw these posh machines come, and I said, "Where is this? Why is there not HDFC Bank?" So I went to all the shops telling them, with 4 of these guys, because they had taken us out, and Smiley was telling me, "What are you doing?" So, and telling them, "Look, you have this posh machine, they used to be charged a lot." So I said, "Okay, I'll cut it in half. Will you come to HDFC Bank? I'm the MD." From their look on their face, I didn't know whether they believed that this fellow with 2 drinks and a lot of tandoori murgas down the thing, is he really the MD or pulling? But the guys, I must tell you, the team picked it up. And I didn't know Madam was watching. And then when we'd go out to a restaurant and be sitting there, she would ask the restaurant fellow when he brought the machine, "Is this HDFC Bank?" And she also was instrumental in saying, "Why don't you do something for the uneducated but skilled? The weavers, the embroiderers, the people who inlay on marble." That's where our program on, much before CSR came and started on microfinance. And we did productive microfinance, and 14 million people, families we brought as HDFC Bank above the poverty line, who had the skill, but were working as day laborers. We turned them into businessmen.
Okay. So, your stint as a banker and that monkia as every man's banker. So I believe Smiley ma'am had a lot to contribute with that monkia being given to you as well. And now ma'am's new innings as an author has started after your retirement. So, how did you take the news, or rather this is a question to both of you. How is the news of ma'am wanting to write a book on your life, the great Adityanama? How is that news taken at home?
No, firstly, I have to tell you that it's been a very strong but latent desire that nobody else should write a book on him but me. Not the banking side of it, but his, stories, personal stories, and his personal life, which is behind the banker. So that, there's nobody who knows him better for 45 years than me. So this, I had to get it out of my system. And of course, the responses he'll tell you are really lovely that we're getting from his...
And I was not keen on the book at all. You see, if you see all along, I think Mr. Kamath put it, that maybe the media followed him because of the successes, but he is a media shy person. So I've kept largely to discussions where to build a brand or tell them about the customer. But I would never bring my personal life into it. So initially when she came, I said, no. I'm not doing it. I won't help you with the publisher. I won't do any marketing for you, etc. Then for my retirement, she wrote a coffee table book just for the family.
A surprise.
And she put in so much effort, and she says, look, I'll have to come back in an afterlife after my death to write this book. I said, now I have to retire. I better realize who's the boss. And so, okay, go ahead and write it. But if I knew she was such a good writer, when I read the book, she writes much better than me and she's able to communicate better than me in a more simple manner. That's about the only thing that I had not delegated. If I knew she was so good, I would have made her write my memos and everything.
Oh, no.
But anyway, I'm proud of her. She's been a major influence in my life.
That's great. So, when you realize that now's the time, you're nearing your retirement, you have to realize who's the boss at home. Is that what inspired the book cover?
No. You see, what happened was that the initial reactions on the book were phenomenal. So the first reaction is, you must have been a very brave man. No, not very. You are a very brave man to allow your wife. So I said, I'll answer that question later. The second was that she must love you a lot. My wife won't even write 2 pages on me, and she's written, 200 pages in. Third was, what happens to these boxing gloves when you go home? I said, elementary, Watson, they just switch hands. So, because they went there and I was spending more time in life, the question of my being a very brave man is, I was a very sensible man rather than a brave man with the glove switching hands. So, she beat me into doing it.
Lovely. So, you described the boxing gloves switching hands in the evening. But is sports something that you are passionate about personally? Is that one of your hobbies?
It is one of my hobbies, but this is a sportsman actually. What all did you do? You were in school, you were the athletics, you were what all?
In school, but not after. Yes.
In
all sports of different types of netball, throwball.
What is that? Hurdling?
The athletics. And even the, running on the sports field. So I would come up with all the cups and all the certificates.
So I'm not that good, but I do play golf. I've played hockey and football in school. And sports, yes, definitely it has to be a part.
Hockey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hockey, football, golf.
Yes.
Table tennis. Football I actually still play with my grandson also. First I used to beat him, now he beats me. Now we've stopped actually, he's too big. So till about 10 we used to play. And when he used to beat me, I used to trip him if he ran past me. And then he would say, you're cheating. And I had gone to I had all these photographs with these international players. I said, see, you recognize Messi? He told me that if I'm trying to block you going past me after the ball is not tripping. He knew I was lying. He'd go and complain to his father. But nobody in the afternoon sun other than indulgent grandfather is going to play with him in the sun in the afternoon. So after shouting, screaming, okay, Dadu, we'll go and play again.
So, you mentioned about your hobby of golf, and golf is often, has had a reputation of being a businessman's or a business person's sport.
Yes.
Anybody famous that we may know of that, you've enjoyed playing golf with?
Well, Lord, no, I don't want to take names. Lots of them. You have your foursome, so you play. And actually, I don't want to discuss business on the golf course. So I play with friends.
Okay. So we've, discussed about the grandson. We've discussed about life abroad. But now let's come to the dynamics both of you share with your children. So would you want to tell our viewers something about the bond you have with your kids?
So I was always under the impression that, I'm going to make the best mother. But, after the kids came, I saw this father so indulgent and so doting, and if they were ill, he was the one who was doing everything for them, that I saw that the question that he asked, usually it's a mother that asks. So I feel that he's the mother and I'm the father. So these are the...
No, she's being polite. So together we bond as a family. We have excellent relationship. Whenever they need security, they need love, they would need puchi, they would need good food, they go to the mother. When they want to discuss the world, etc., their career and something about economics, etc., they'll come to me.
Their future.
And whenever they've done something wrong, I'll hear about it first from Smiley rather than from them. But we can all sit in the evening and have a nice drink. We've always been more friends. But there's a line that they can't cross. But otherwise, we are friends, we are family, we are what else? Yeah?
We're all heart.
We're all heart.
So now you mentioned about both of your involvements as parents. Is this involvement something that, came into the picture after you became parents, or do we have some moments from the time when you were expecting your first child, ma'am? And how was that entire journey? Because as much as becoming a parent is important, that journey of 9 months is equally important as well.
No, there's a very funny incident that I've even written about it in the book. So during the 9th month when I was about to deliver, so we said, let's go to Juhu Beach, before the baby comes, because after the baby comes, it's very difficult to get out. So it was a Sunday, and I had bought these, rubber with water filled in it. They're yo-yos. So I had bought a whole lot of them and brought them back because I really love them. And the next morning, lo and behold, my water bag burst. And when it burst, I rang up Aditya, and he was in a very important meeting in Citibank. So he was told by the secretary that Mrs. Puri wants to talk to you very urgently. So he came out and took the call. And I told him, my water bag has burst. So he said, what? You've called me out of this very important meeting to tell me that your water bag has burst. We'll go back to Juhu Beach. We'll buy a whole lot more. I said, no. When the baby is in the uterus, there's water there. That water bag has burst. Oh my God, it took so long for this to sink in, because he had no idea that the baby was sitting in the amniotic fluid. Which
I bet Akash, you knew about water bag. Say loudly. No, see? I didn't know why water bag and linking. Can you link a water bag and a child?
So he said, so I told him, just reach to the Breach Candy Hospital and I will reach, and the doctors are all there, waiting for us. So this we still, sometimes discuss this and have a good laugh.
And while she was pregnant, now you can beat me up, but it's all right. She was a pain. So first, initially, her parents had suggested that why didn't you move in with us during the pregnancy? And I said no. Proud fellow, I must live in my own house, etc. Then one lunch I went, and while I was still having snacks and all, the throwing up, and now I'm feeling weak, now I'm feeling this, and I just poured myself my chilled beer, so I was all hassle. My mother-in-law came, God bless her soul. You please sit down. Here is a new glass of beer, and you leave it to me. I peacefully had my 2 chilled glasses of beer. Then I had my lunch served to me. I don't look at Smiley. I said, I'm willing to move in tomorrow with you. Until the baby is delivered.
The baby is delivered. Because it was in the night and I would say, I want Chinese.
She'd wake me up in the night also.
Chinese. I'm getting urge of eating Chinese.
And she's very smart. When the baby came, she didn't want to get up at night. No, you have to change the napkin and all. So she said, now you change the napkin.
Nappy.
So I was also thinking, ये तो अब रोज रात को उठना पड़ेगा.
Because in those days.
So those days you had those cloth napkins.
No, the safety pin ones. Not the not the Velcro ones these days.
So I went. And I said, between getting up and going there and taking off his own nappy, it stank wet because of all the shit or so he had done. So I cleaned that much. Then I said, this I can't do every day. So I said, Smiley, my hand is shaking. I think I'll poke him with the pin. I'm not very good. So you do it. So I never had to change the nappy again.
So now when I ask him, and I said, were your hands shaking? While putting on the safety pin, he said, no, I had to think of a strategy because otherwise I'd be changing, nappies and putting safety pins all of his nappies.
He never asked me now to go into the kitchen also. Because she gave me tomatoes and onion to cut, and at the end there was no onion or tomato left.
He would say, this is bad, this is to be thrown, and there was no onion.
She never asked me to go to the kitchen again.
There's another incident.
Helper in the kitchen?
No, there's another incident which I have to say, which I think I've written it in the book, is that in Saudi Arabia...
The intention was there. The execution was not. Must understand. Her heart was there.
So in Saudi Arabia, on every Jummah Friday, it's a holiday over there. So all our friends would come over for lunch, and after lunch we'd play board games, and then we would all drink a hot cup of coffee. So my friend said, now she's cooked all the lunch, so now you go and make the coffee. So after 1 hour, we were all waiting for the coffee, and we were all playing the board games. I said, I'll just go check what's up with the coffee, because even he was here playing the board games. And I went there and I saw that the kettle had been filled, it had been put onto the burner, but he had not switched on the gas. So I went and asked him. So he said, see, you told me to do the coffee cups. I laid out the coffee cups. You said to put coffee in it. I put it. You said to put the sugar. But you never told me, and you even told me to fill the kettle and put it on, but you never said, put on the gas.
But I thought she'll come and do it. No, I didn't, but in retrospect.
Okay, so Mrs. Puri, we've heard of the children, we've heard of your travels, everything. Would you want to tell us about the youngest yet the most notorious member of the Puri family?
Yes, sure. Actually, our family is very fond of pets and dogs. And in Malaysia, Amrita had a guinea pig, she had turtles, she had rabbits, and she had bajragas, she had parrots, and she had dogs. But on our, in our whole, 45 years, we've had 9 dogs. But this 9th one that we've got just now is the most notorious, and his name is Nimbu. He's an abandoned dog, and we've given him a home because Amrita is very fond of giving homes to the abandoned dogs. And he's a real Nimbu in the actual sense. He's absolutely, he goes all sour when he sees people, and you never know what his, the approach will be when he sees a whole bunch of people.
But he's a bunch of energy.
Yes.
He does all the tricks, but he doesn't listen to... He listens to me. Mm-hmm. The only person he listens to is me. Yeah. The rest he thinks is equal. There he doesn't listen. And he can drive you nuts. He sleeps in this funny manner. Then he does all the tricks. And he only eats when somebody goes and feeds him what he likes.
With love, with a lot of puch and all that. So he's actually the most spoilt as well. So there's another story of Nimbu is that in the earlier house, we had a rat that entered our flat. And so our earlier dogs used to go and actually, find them and kill them. So I thought even Nimbu's a dog and even he would like to find them and kill them. So when we saw the rat, there was chaos, mayhem in our house. I was screaming.
No, but the first thing...
And I jumped onto the table. But before I jumped onto the table, I thought, okay, the rat is in the kitchen. So Aditya was there with all the servants with the sticks trying to hit the rat. And Amrita was screaming. So I said, I opened the door a little bit and I gave a little shove to Nimbu into the kitchen door, thinking, okay, Nimbu, go and fetch him. And then we see down, there's a little glass door at the... So we sort of looked down and see Nimbu was shrieking worse than me. He was screaming to be let in, so we opened it. He was so afraid of the rat that we had to let him in and shut the door. And then we all jumped onto the table. And
then they go and open him, the rats come out. Nimbu's running one place, this one's on the table.
And so is Amrita on the table.
Amrita's on the sofa.
Well.
And I'm saying, can you keep quiet? I got to get this rat out or kill him. Shut up.
The rat was more afraid of all of us screaming. So he was going helter-skelter.
I think one of the servants got him
funny. Really a funny incident.
Punjabis are known for their vibrant personalities and their ever-fond love for food. Mrs. Puri, who is the biggest foodie or rather an executive chef in the family?
He's not allowed to really go in the kitchen because he doesn't know my kitchen at all. So it's better if he just stays away and just concentrates on the eating, not on the cooking.
But I help you. I discuss the recipe with you.
Yeah.
I tell them what to do.
He's very good with recipes. Excellent. I mean, he can even tell you what is wrong in that dish. What's missing in that dish, and was the tomato to be put a little later, or was it, is it the onions that are raw? He'll tell you exactly.
I'll tell the chef in the hotel also how to do it.
Yeah.
Or get me my crustiness in my fish.
So has this, newfound fondness for food, or rather being an executive chef, was it always there or has it emerged out more after retirement? Is Mr. Puri taking retirement well?
Very well. In fact, there's a friend of ours, we had a group of people, friends over for dinner, and the next day my friend rings up, rather his friend rings up and says, there's a group of 300 people and I'm the chairman of that group. So can you please come and give a talk on how you have taken retirement so well? We really thought it's going to be very difficult for you being a celebrity and working hard for all your life, that it's going to be very difficult to retire. But you have done it so beautifully. You just slipped into it. So, oh my God, it's finished it.
Who told you this is to be had with a spoon?
But
you don't know anything.
I have it with a spoon.
And you're a Angrez. As it is, I've sent them out. Ask your grandfather how are you supposed to have it. Okay.
So, he actually has taken retirement so well in the house also. He's so peaceful. He absolutely is really relaxed. And in fact, his friends also tell him, and even I feel that his face is so relaxed, as compared to when he was in the bank.